Hilu, hilu, hotzianu, hotzianu, mi mitzrayim, hotzianu, mi mitzrayim, dai. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we on? I've finished. We've finished. Everything's covered. Brought out the Pesach Kalim. Have my special Pesach. I just spilled the coffee over. I have this special Pesach edition of the Rabbi Orlofsky show and the special Pesach program that we're having. And that's it. I'm done. Just sitting down, having a cup of coffee, Pesach coffee. Pesach coffee is the best because, you open up a brand new one just for Pesach. Everything's fresh. Everything's fresh and delicious and clean and nice. And we had the easiest year this year. I just covered everything in aluminum foil. I wrapped my children in aluminum foil. Everything is covered in aluminum foil. And that's it. And it's hard to get the water out because I covered the entire force in aluminum foil. But everything is covered. We're just relaxing, getting ready for the Seder. And we're joining together, having a cup of coffee, singing Pesach songs, getting ready. There's a Mishnah in Pesachim. If you don't understand these three things, you have not fulfilled your obligation. I am not paskening. But this fellow, his wife, was so inconsiderate, she decided to go into labor on Erev Pesach. I mean, what some people will do to get out of cleaning, right? Anyway, they go to the hospital, and she gives birth. And by the time he gets home, he only has a little bit of time left till Chatzos. What does he do? So he was told, you do the Manish Tana, you do Avdim Ayinu, and then you cut to Rabban Gamliel Omer. Because Rabban Gamliel Omer is the highlight. Through poor planning, it's at the end of the Seder, when everybody's already buzzed out. Yeah? After Dayenu, which is so much fun, 1 or 2 verses. 15 is just overkill. And most of them don't fit in to the tune at all. Yeah? Ilu, ilu, hotzianu, mi mitzrayim, v'lo hispik b'tzeinu, b'ayim shana dayenu. I always give that line. We give out the lines. I always give that line to somebody who's got an attitude. Chew on that one. Anyway, so you have to know the ones that fit in, Ilu, ilu, karvenu, livnei arsin, avelo, nasalano, esatoy, redai. You got to get the ones, but there aren't too many of them. It's all trick there. So by the time you get to Rabban Gamliel Omer, it's a little difficult. So I want to focus on that, which is, I guess, the most important part of the Seder. And according to some Rishonim, if you don't understand these three things, you're not even Yotzei. No mitzvah. You have to mamish understand them. And I want to point out that the podcast this week is sponsored anonymously as a schus for a couple that asked me not to mention their names. And it's a little tricky sometimes because when I mention people's names, it could be there's enough information there that people can put it together. I have problems where I tell stories sometimes that I give too many details, and then people figure out who I'm talking about, and it's not good. So they asked if I could just have their names in mind as we do the podcast. So there should be a schus for, and they should have Parnasa Toiva, Zereshel Kayama, Shalom Bayis, and Yer Shamayim, and all that good stuff. Yeah? When people ask me for a bracha, I say, I give you my mother's bracha. I wish everything for you that you wish for yourself. Yeah? Which is a problem, because sometimes people are depressed and they want to kill themselves. Anyway, put that aside. This guy was going to kill himself, and he was very depressed, so he opened up the Bible, and so it said, do unto others as you'll do unto yourself. So he killed someone else. Now, that story is wrong on just so many levels. First of all, that line doesn't exist in the Torah. But it is funny, and that's the point. because by this point we have provided you with over 15 hours of very close to Torah content. The only podcast doing this, whatever this is. In any event, so I want to officially welcome everybody to the Rabbi Orlofsky Pesach program. And as I mentioned in the past, I'm waiting for an outpouring of requests that next Pesach we should find a nice little hotel in Israel and have the Orlofsky Pesach program, where basically you'll spend Pesach with me and my family. We'll provide all the programming. You'll have all the same fun that we have here. Yeah, one can only imagine how much fun that is. Sit down and be quiet. That's it. Where do you get that kind of fun? Where can you go for a Pesach program where the person in charge is screaming at you and throws you out of the... I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. A lot of Pesach programs like that. But anyway, so we're going on there. Now, somebody actually wrote me when he heard that there was an idea that we were going to do a series of Pesach programs. They said, could you finally answer that question that you always ask in your shiurim, why do we eat matzah? And I have a whole routine on this to try to prove relevance. Yeah, why do we eat matzah? It's a whole thing. I'm not going to do it now, but as luck would have it, I did a share this past Motzi Shabbos, and Torah Anytime filmed it, so it should be up there. If you want to go see an answer to the Pesach part, we're not going to deal with the Pesach thing. And if you take a look when you go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast/31. There will be a link there if you want to go and see that particular show. In any event, I want to focus on the remaining two. Yeah? And that is Pesach and Marror. I'm going to cut for a moment to Marror. Marror is a mitzvah because the Egyptians made our lives bitter. Now, my father came from Poland. They made him tough back in Poland. They had to make him tough in Poland. I remember reading in the Holocaust that the Jews who came from Western Europe, many of them committed suicide in the camps because they couldn't handle it. Not a Polish Yid. Polish Yid was made tough. Yeah. This Polish Yid is on his deathbed and his family is gathered around. He says, Moshe, are you here? Yes, Tate. Yankel, are you here? Yes, Tata. Chaimka, are you here? Yes, Tata. Then who's watching the store? Doesn't mean the Polish Yid. So he used horseradish root for Marror. Yeah? And he gave out chunks of it. Chunks of it, horseradish. And I had gone to day school. And I said, Dad, you can't use horseradish root because people can't eat it, unless you grate it up. And he's sitting there chomping on it like it's an apple. He goes, oh, yeah? Is that Polish Yid? I told this story over once. Someone said, my father was also a Polish Yid. You know how when you make the Charoset and you're grating the apples and eating a piece of apple? He used to do that with the Marror. He'd grate it and chomp on some along the way. It was like a snack food, They made them tough back in the old country. We use romaine lettuce leaves. If you want like a really intense experience, you use the stalk. That on our little matzah chart is only a 3x5. You understand? Index card. If anyone still uses index cards, I don't even know if there are such things anymore. But that's how much you need to have the stalks, and we know how terribly bitter those are. You understand? People make salads out of this stuff all the time. And this is Marror? That's bitterness? I was using lettuce leaves as my first chomping on the horseradish root. And he's like, that's called Marror? That's what you call Marror? That's bitterness? It makes the Gemara in Pesachim even more interesting. Because the Gemara in Pesachim says that one of the reasons that you dip the Marror into the Charoset is to counteract this type of poison that's in it. Do you ever hear of anybody dying from like romaine lettuce overdose? And you have to worry about this? Yeah. And isn't it interesting? The Gemara says, what is the charoset? The charoset is packed with stuff. We know why we eat maror. Maror is because of the bitterness. We know we eat matzah because the gula came so quickly. We know we eat Pesach because the Kodesh Baruch Hu posach al botei b'nei Yisrael. He passed over their houses. Yeah, Passover. Yeah. And according to one shita, the charoset is also a mitzvah. So what's the charoset for? The charoset is to remember the mud that they used to make the bricks. Rashi says that they oppressed us with bricks and mortar, with work in the field and all the different types of work, and the terrible avoda's parach. This was the least of it. It kept getting worse. The bricks and mortar were the least of the work that we had to deal with. And we dip it in to remove the poison of the romaine lettuce. People eat salad all the time. They never dip it in the charoset. And by the way, you just dip it and you shake it if you don't eat the charoset. Yeah. Which, when we had the horseradish root, that's what most of us did. We'd suck off the charoset. Maybe lick the horseradish. Like that was enough, But we also have grated horseradish by my Seder for those who want that, They pour it a little bit on the kairach. It's good. Cleans you out. Clears out your sinuses. Yeah. But the charoset, it's zeich l'tit. It's zeich l'klal Yisrael. It says you use the different fruits that Klal Yisrael is compared to. So Svardish charoset uses a lot of those fruits. We just use apples. We use gozim and tapuach. Yeah, where it says they would give birth under the apple tree. They would give birth under the apple tree, and the ground would swallow up the babies and would nurse them and take care of them, and and that apple tree showed that love between husband and a wife. Hence, don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. I think it's in the Achronim. Anyway, but so we have apples, we have nuts. So charoset is there to represent how Kodesh Baruch Hu loves Klal Yisrael. And it's there to cancel out the poison in the Marror. And it's there to remind us about the bricks and mortar. Oh, and also we add red wine to it, because it's supposed to be a little liquidy, so it reminds us of the dam. So it makes it a tibul. It's the dam. It reminds us of blood. So it's blood. It's Klal Yisrael. It's mortar. We're doing so much with this stuff that we don't even eat. We just dip it in to counteract the poison. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about bitterness. There's a short book called A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, which describes this fellow who's in a Siberian prison camp. And it's terrible work, freezing cold, very little food. This was during World War II that he was sent there for whatever reason. And he says this captain of a ship was sent there because he lost some naval battle and they sent him there. He says he was watching him as he's eating his little fish stew that they give you. He says he's too proud to break the fish bones and suck out the marrow. He's not going to make it because you need every little piece of nutrition you can get. And they were given a job that day of building a wall and whatever it was, And at the end of the day, he's reviewing his day. This and that. He goes, I built a wall and I enjoy doing it. That's an amazing concept there. Because at least you want to feel like you're doing something worthwhile. I was my first year as a teacher. And young teachers have difficulty with discipline. They don't know how to discipline. So one of the older, younger teachers, he'd been there for longer, he says, this is what you do when a kid misbehaves. You give him something to write, like 100 times. And then when he hands it in, you rip it up in front of him to show him that he has nothing to show for his work. I did this once. I don't know about the kid, but I was totally traumatized. A punishment should be something. I once heard Rabbi Silver. He was explaining different things about the Hebrew language. He says, Onesh is ayin nosh. See that you've fallen. It's an onesh. And onesh is there that it's not supposed to be vindictive. It's supposed to be, a friend of mine told me his kid once did something bad and he sent him to his room and he says, I want you to sit there until you figure out how many diaresis you were just over. Okay, there's something worthwhile there. Think. Do something worthwhile, but you give somebody a job and then you just destroy it just to show them that everything that they did was worthless. And that's what the mitzvah did to us. That was the avodas parach. That's what was breaking. We would make these bricks and build these buildings. And Pitom and Ramses, they were in swamps where they would get swallowed up, or they were in a place where the earthquakes would knock it down, and we would just have to do it over and over again. The most frustrating thing is to have to do it over again. I saw a bumper sticker once that said, how come there's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it over? Think about it. Think about what you're doing. But if you do something and it turns out there was nothing there, you had nothing to show for it. When we finish a Masechta, so in the Kaddish we say afterwards, Anu amelim v'hem amelim, Anu amelim v'kam schar, hem amelim v'hem v'kam schar. We work and they work. We work and receive reward. They work and they don't receive reward. We don't receive reward. People get fine salaries. Make a lot of money. So it says the Chavetz Chaim, I'll tell you what it means. I go to a shoemaker and I want a very specific type of shoe. He says, I've never made this before, but it's going to cost X amount of dollars. Fine. And he spends a week. And I come to him, he says, couldn't make the shoes. I couldn't make the shoes. And here's my bill. I said, what? Here's my bill. I had to spend on materials and I spent my time. I want to be compensated. He says, you get compensated for the product. Yeah, we pay for goods and services, not for good intention, not for trying. I'm not mechuyev to pay you for the fact that you decided to try, not to give you anything. We had a neighbor years ago, she used to make these health food things. And somebody asked her to make her a carrot cake, and she was rushed. Every time I think of the story, it hits me all over again. She was in a rush. So instead of using the side of the grater that, really grates the carrots, she used the part that sort of slices into pieces. And she made the carrot cake. And the people said, this is disgusting, I can't eat this. And she told us the story, and she was so upset. She said, I spent money. I said, but you knew you did it wrong. Because, I was in a rush. Because, but you knew the people weren't getting a real carrot cake. It's not a cake with big chunks of carrot in it. You grind it up and make, oh gosh. I could only imagine the look on everyone's faces there. Crunching up this carrot. But anyway, so they didn't pay for it. And she was very upset. She put in time, she put in effort. They work and they don't get anything. We work and we get reward. I was a Chavetz Chaim. We spent a week on a Marror, trying to come up with shot. We tried this, we tried this, we tried this, and after a week we said, no, was came done. We don't have shot. We don't know what it means. So I said to my Rebbe, I said, then we just wasted a week. He says, no, we proved nobody else has pshat either. Now, if you're paying me for results, I have no results. Rabbi Orlofsky once said, the sign of a lamdin is someone who knows how to ask good questions. Giving good answers, that's parnosa. That's what you do for a living. You're not going to make it unless you're able to give answers. But the ability is to be able to figure out what the questions are. The difference is that we get paid for the effort, even if we don't produce something. But in this world, you want to produce something. You want to feel like it's worthwhile. This doesn't reflect well on me, but I've pointed out many times that's not the purpose of this podcast. I had a Rebbe who said to me, Orlofsky, everyone has a purpose. Yours is to be a bad example. I always try to live up to that. I don't know how people say the long tachnun on Mondays and Thursdays and the amount of time that they give you. There's no way I can do it. I can do it. And I have no kavana. Imagine for somebody who has kavana. I can't. I have ADD. I can't concentrate, So what I do is I finish Shmona Esrei, usually before everybody else, and I right away start saying the tachnun. So I get halfway through by the time they start Chazaras Hashatz. And then afterwards, I can get through half of it in the amount of time they give. And sometimes I get through half of it, and they give a bang. We have a chassan, and that. No, we have a moil, no tachnun. I think to myself, what a waste. I just had half of a long tachnun for nothing. You know what I'm saying? I could have gotten out of it. So that doesn't say much about me and my approach to prayer. But anyway, you want to feel like you're doing something. Pesach Krohn loves this. He enjoys speaking. He enjoys speaking. I don't enjoy speaking so much. I do it because I know that I'm good at it, and I really can't do anything else. So they say those who can do, those who can't teach. Those who can't teach become speakers. But he said to me once, he says, if he's prepared a drasha, and then he shows up, and the event is canceled, even if they're going to pay it for him, he's very disappointed. Because he prepared his drasha. If I prepare a drasha, and I show up, and it's canceled, and they say they're going to get paid anyway, I have a tremendous sigh of relief. I recently just spoke by somebody's home. They brought me in to give a shir. And they had a lovely buffet beforehand. They said, you want to eat something? I said, I try not to eat before I speak. I get too nervous. I'm doing this for many years. I get a little nervous if they have to speak. Yeah. But somebody prepared a drasha, and they want to give that drasha, they get very disappointed. There was a synagogue group that came during the summit to Israel, and they were captured Nebuch by terrorists, and he says he's going to execute the entire group. But I'll give each one of you a last wish. So the rabbi says, well, I've been working on my drasha for Kol Nidre. I want to give my drasha first. He says, granted. Anybody else? The chazan says, I've done a new Nesara Tokef that I've composed, and I'd like to sing it first. He says, okay, anyone else? The synagogue president says, I've prepared my state of the synagogue address that I wanted to give over the high holidays. I'd like to give it first. Because anybody else? The shamash says, kill me first. People want to give their speeches. People like to give it. Sometimes you go to these shuls where they have somebody speak between Mincha and Ma'ariv, and the person has 10 minutes. And 20 minutes later, they all do the same move. They look at the clock, they look at their watch, back at the clock. If Shalom Sheikh, can I continue? And there's always somebody who goes, yeah, sure. Because people, I mentioned this when I was at the Yehuda convention. Pesach Krohn said, be prepared to run late. Because people just can't believe that they're speaking at the Yehuda convention. They just can't stop. They just can't stop. But if you prepare and you don't get a chance to give it, people are disappointed. We worked like crazy, making these bricks, there were thorns, our fingers were bleeding. A woman miscarried into the mud, and they wouldn't let her stop, and her kid became a part of the mixture. And they built these buildings, and they all collapsed. It was interesting when Menachem Begin went to Egypt. So he kept saying, I want to see the pyramids because we built that. Those our people built that. We built this, we built that. And the Egyptians were getting upset. And finally one of them pulls out a chumash. He says, It says you worked with brick and mortar. These are made out of stone. So he was like, oh, okay. It's always bad when the Egyptian is the one quoting a pasuk for you from Shemos. Oh, little irony there. But we worked and we saw it all destroyed. When we come to Har Sinai, we reach the highest level of Nevuah, this unbelievable level of prophecy, where we heard the sights and saw the sounds. It was something that was an unbelievable prophetic experience. And we look up, the pasuk says, we saw under his feet kelivnas hasapir, a brickwork of sapphire. And said the Chazal, where did those bricks come from? Those were all the bricks that we made in Mitzrayim. We thought we killed ourselves making these bricks, and we thought there was nothing left. Everything we did was for nothing. It all collapsed. And it wasn't true. Because every brick that we made, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took that brick and put it tachas kisei hakavod. He put it under the heavenly throne. And that's what allowed us to be able to see this unbelievable prophecy. There's bitterness in the Marror. It doesn't matter how bitter it is. We all have bitterness. There's nobody in this world who can say they don't have any Marror. Some, it's horseradish root. Some, it's a romaine lettuce leaf. But the bitterness has a poison in it because it poisons us. And it makes us feel like, why would a HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this to me? Why am I going through this? What's the point of it all? And there is no meaningless suffering, because whatever we go through is made into a brick. And every brick is put tachas kisei hakavod. It's under the heavenly throne. You just don't realize it. So we make the charoset. The charoset represents how God loves us. And it has our blood in it. And it represents that mortar, because everything that we're doing, we're building bricks of sapphire. We're making beautiful, beautiful things. And they're all being set up. One day we'll see it all. So we sit at the Seder and we take the Marror and we dip it into the Charoset, because that's the cure for the poison. The cure for the poison is that we know there is no meaningless suffering. We're doing something meaningful in this world. Everything we're doing, we're building. I turn around sometimes. Ay. How am I going to get through the day? How am I going to get through everything? Everything is so hard. Everything is so difficult. But nothing is for nothing. And at the end, we'll see all those. My father passed away from lung cancer. I remember Rabbi Shroit, Rabbi Shalom, came, and he brought this printout from the Kisvei Chavetz Chaim, where he says, at the end of your life, first we bring all of your mitzvahs. And each one is represented by a malach. And some of these malachim, they're missing they're missing a wing or two, They're limping along. They're not in such great shape because we didn't always do the mitzvahs with such kavanah. And then all the evil angels come who represent all the bad things we did in this world. And they're big and strong because we did that with feeling and with life. And it looks like it's all over. And then malachim come and they take all of your suffering and they put it on the other side. And that's how you get Nolam Haba. Because my father suffered very much those last 2 years of his life. That's what Rabbi Shroit wanted to say. There's whatever the bitterness, whatever the poison is, we counteract it with the charoset because we know we're building something in this world. Pesach, Kadosh Baruch Hu saved us. Matzah, it happens very quickly. And Marror, remember the bitterness, because there was that bitterness that allowed us to reach the tremendous levels that we reached. So that's it for this episode of the Rabbi Orlofsky Pesach program. If you want to find out more about the podcast, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast. If you want to find out or make a comment about this particular episode, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast/31. If you want to find out about upcoming events, RabbiOrlofsky.com/events. If you want to contact me, it's RabbiOrlofsky.com/contact. And if you would like to sponsor an episode, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast and click on the sponsor an episode button. And that's it. That's it. This is, after this, we're all going to have the Seder. And Kolonu Mesubin. We're all going to have our experience with Yetzias Mitzrayim. And the next episode is going to come out Motzi Yontif. And that'll be an opportunity. That'll be our special Chol HaMoed extravaganza. And that'll be the final episode in the Pesach program. Then after that, you just have to go to the tea room and collect whatever's left. Take it home with you and bring it back. And then we will move to our regularly scheduled, I'll have to get another try, and go to our regularly scheduled program. And that's it for this episode. I'm David Orlofsky. This is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Chag kosher v'sameach.